Yeah, let's dive in. And first, I want to cover a couple of the clinical insights that I have. I just have two that I want to share today. And again, if you're new to the show, welcome. Love having everyone here. Keep doing the thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love. If you're new, or if you're not, the clinical insights are an opportunity where I just like to share some of the things that I, come across through the course of the day. I have some conversations with people and I think would be relevant for every one of us to hear or maybe hear again. So first one is, this is kind of I think this is perfect for right now. New patient to me and wonderful young lady, about 43. I think that was her age. And she just moved to the area and has had a bunch of issues, some neck pain, some back pain, some hip issues, also experiencing a lot of hair loss and some thyroid dysfunction. With that being said, she is coming to my office already seeing a functional medicine doctor, which is wonderful. I know that sounds weird that I love hearing that, but I love hearing that because it reminds me that there's a lot of good men and women out there and there's a lot of opportunity for people to see other people. So of course I want to help everyone and there's a lot of good people out there. Anyways, so when she mentioned that to me, I did get this sense that there was a little bit off in the way she said it. When you say something, you could kind of you're not dishing it, but I could tell just in the tone of voice and how she said it, she wasn't 100% pleased. So I asked her, I said, so what's going on? It doesn't sound like things are awesome right now. Usually people are excited once they get involved with functional medicine because it becomes so empowered. I literally had this conversation. She says, I know. And I feel like I should be, but I'm not because I'm so overwhelmed with all the food changes and restrictions. I feel like I'm in food jail. And this was as good for me to hear as much as I want to share it for everybody. And because as a practitioner, those are the things we need to hear. And I also think it is partially our responsibility to understand the capacity of the individual in front of us. This is why I say it in such light there. So with that being said, with our food, we did a quick review and I was definitely not overstepping my boundaries yet. Really just got her back to the idea of using God's garden as her foundation and knowing what she was dealing with. Perfect fit. So I could see just like this gasp of fresh air. With that being said, I backpedaled with her a little bit and asked her about what was going on and what had led up to I got dogs and what led up to this particular situation. In that conversation, this is one of those moments, and I think I mentioned it last week or the week before, that there seems to be there are conversations in the clinic get to another level this time of year. There's a lot more realness. There's a lot more depth to them. And I really enjoy that part of the practice. And anyway, in this moment, the challenge that it probably has for the rest of my team is that it often makes me behind schedule because there are just moments that have to be taken that don't necessarily correlate in or are not congruent with our schedule, because I need an extra 5 or 10 minutes to have a deep conversation. So anyways, that's exactly what happened this morning. And in that, I was having a conversation because I could see there was still this just kind of dis-ease, I would say. And I'm getting to my point in just a moment, everyone. I decided that I would share with her one of the principles about Chinese medicine. And I think this is good for everyone to hear at this time, because this is where most dis-ease and disharmony comes throughout the course of our lifetimes and even in our current state. And there's 3 things that it really boils down to. One was the loss of love. It could be a loss of a loved one. It could be a kid moving off to college, could be a divorce, could be a passing of a mother or father. And it could be the thoughts of remembering those people who are no longer with us. And I think we see a lot of that during the holidays. So there's this loss of love. So that's number 1 in Chinese medicine. And there's no particular order, just all 3 of these are the primary stressors of a human's life. Loss of a loved. Number 2 is the inability to exchange. Nowadays, remember, Chinese medicine is thousands of years old. Nowadays, we call that finances. In the past, it used to be the inability to exchange would be, you got some chickens, I got some boots, I'll swap you. But if I didn't have any boots, I couldn't get any chickens and I would be starving. Nowadays, we talk that as finances. So money, loss of love, and then third is moving. Literally physically moving, uprooting our first and second chakras, and then replanting. And as I was having this conversation, I was walking through these different stressors. It's as if I just opened up the like aha moment for this young lady, and she was like, wow. And then she shared with me, I watched my first husband get killed. My second husband committed suicide. We decided for a new change, and she moved to the beach. And so no doubt losing her hair could be a direct reflection of stress. Now, with that being said, starting a comprehensive new diet in the moment, probably not an awesome plan. The reason I share that with everyone tonight is inevitably a lot of people this time of year are feeling in disarray. They know there's this pending thing they're waiting for, and it's kind of like Christmas and holidays, which is wonderful. They're beautiful times. And so a lot of times people say, like, Doc, I need to cleanse right now. I'm so off track. No, when to do things is just as important of what to do. So let's set ourselves up for success. So, we got our cleanse coming in January 2nd. And for this young lady, I took I felt like in this moment with just some words, I took all this stress away from her and said, no big deal. So listen, just keep grounding yourself. And I shared it with her, said, do everything you can. See if your bed is in the same direction that it used to be when you came from your old house. All the subtleties that energetically let her ground herself. And I gave her my example of a little ripe tomato plant, which I want to share tonight. So imagine yourself right now, and you are in a different state, and you are a beautiful little red tomato plant, and you're in your backyard. And you decide that you're going to move down to this new place, the beaches of Florida, paradise of paradise. So you pluck this little red, beautiful tomato plant up out of the garden, which is beautiful and it's healthy. And then you bring it all the way and you travel with it. And then you bring it to this new place and you plant it in this new backyard. And it's still beautiful and it's still a little red tomato plant. Challenge is the roots are not set. And when we are not rooted is when we have the most potential for dis-ease or disharmony. And it just takes time. So down here, what is we see a lot of people move here, and then we get here and they're disrupted energetically. And it's okay. It just takes a little time. And that's where anything you've done, you've moved, you've been doing a lot of travel, reroute yourself, get back to the basics, get back into your routine. And that's why having a routine, your friends, your family, your exercise, all of your routines are so incredibly important. So many takeaways from that. When and what are both important, but when you do something often will dictate whether or not you're going to have this success with it. So in this young lady's situation, doing a new, dietary plan to help improve her function of her body, awesome. When? Not right now.
I think it's really sweet when you have the opportunity to pause and recognize like all the things where you are. And from there, it's okay. It's just going to take some time and acknowledge and go. I'm glad she's in our community.
Yeah, me too. And I know it's going to work out awesome. And and that's one of life's lessons, as we move forward here. All right. I want to share another one here. This interesting enough, and this happened twice today. So this happened with two different patients, and in both of them very similar, but just a little bit different in both patients. So when someone comes in and see me, inevitably, I'm going to say something very repetitive like, Whit, good to see you today. You've been taking good care of yourself? Awesome. How you moving? How you eating? How you thinking? And then I'll often dive a little deeper. Depending on the answer you give me, if I think it's a weak answer, I'm diving deeper, right? So if someone says, well, I'm doing the best I can, I say, what did it look like today? Did you exercise today? Did you do the best that you could today? And it's okay to answer with, I did the best I can today, and it looks a lot different than yesterday. That's a good answer. When I know they're just dodging, then I go deeper. So interestingly enough, twice today, I had someone say, Doc, I don't even want to admit this, but I haven't been exercising. And here's the catch. And I feel so much better.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting, right? So this is not the first time I've crossed this bridge. So this is very common, and not so common because we've always known with exercise that the days off are as important as the days on. And the reason that we have days off so the body can recover, repair, and rebuild, and the mind can think, and you get to recognize what works for you and what doesn't. This is where there is potential for overtraining at times. In both of these scenarios, they were overtraining. Now, I'm not going to give a number or a day amount of what I think overtraining is, because it's all relative. It's all relative to the rest of our lives. What are you doing to create active recovery? And people forget that part of it. In both of these scenarios, when they took days off, there wasn't, or I'd say outside of, actually, the two scenarios are a little bit different. One was very good at active recovery when it came to eating good and probably sleeping, but super high stress. And the other one was probably not good at any of them. They just exercised as a way to hammer out, but their body was getting beat up. So in both of the scenarios, I said, listen, all right, one thing I want to make crystal clear, you have to train your body to be stronger. Getting really comfortable is dangerous. Because if we lower the bar and say, well, exercise hurts me, I never feel good after exercise. And in this scenario, they said they feel better because they're not exercising. If you start to lower your bar, it only goes lower. It gets lower and lower and lower. Your capacity is lowered. And so that's really my share here, is that yes, in both these scenarios, and I was happy for them both. I'm like, I'm glad I'm glad you had the experience of feeling better and you feel good. Now you got to figure out, how are you able to get strong and feel good simultaneously?
I love that you use the word active, like active recovery. It's a conscious effort equally to planning your like workouts is like how you're going to recover from them. Yeah.
It really is. And then, which is going to bleed right into our conversation tonight, because actively choosing to detoxify has to be part of the game plan to be stronger human beings. In order for us to be superhuman, we have to actively plan to detoxify, because as we're going to figure out in just a moment here, there's no avoiding toxins. This is a conversation that in the front part of it, it's not going to be that fun. And of course, I'm going to wean in some simple opportunities to kind of create a balancing act and increase the capacity to make sure that we are strong humans. Yet the amount of toxins that we're exposed to is at an all-time high. It's astronomical, and it's at the root of all disease within the human body. So we got to have a plan of detoxification. And a lot of the ones, and I want to make sure, because I had some people reach out to me after one of our previous shows here, and they said, should I do a liver detox? No, I'm not a fan of like those specific one, gallbladder, liver, kidney detoxes. No, you help facilitate a system that is a better detox pathway. Essentially, you rehab the metabolic system, the detoxification, or the digestive system as a whole, not these pieces and parts. And that's when we get in trouble. It's almost like, should I just work on my biceps in the gym? No, that creates an imbalance. So, all right. So those are my clinical insights for tonight. Hopefully they find a place in your life that makes sense of them and somehow you gain from them. So always fun to share those.
Beautiful. I have to tell you, Bart, that I remember when you told me the tomato story when I first moved to the beach. And it really helped me a lot, give myself some grace while I settled in. And man, I settled in. Thank you for that.
Yes, yes. I experienced that firsthand. When I moved out of Atlanta, which was crazy and chaotic, right? I moved down here to literally the oasis, right? To me, beautiful beach house, the whole thing. It was one of my toughest years. It was in a time, especially in a big move like that, when we're literally moving. It doesn't have to be a big move. You could literally move your home 3 houses down the road, but that's enough. And just doing that, you've moved that little tomato plant. And the time frames usually 6 to 12 months to really rerouting.
You've been in paradise. It's such a good reminder. Well, we've got such a great topic stepping into toxins, Bart, and we hear about toxins here and there. It's like a hot topic. I am so excited that we're going to form a strategy because I know that they're everywhere. So Bart, like, what are toxins?
Okay. So we're going to shift toxins into, we're going to call them toxins throughout the course of the night. We're also going to talk about chemicals. Okay.
Oh.
So I think that'd be
And
easier.
scary.
In scary. But I want to think chemicals, because nature really doesn't nature does make some poisons, like when there's venoms in certain plants and stuff like that, like weird stuff that can give us poisons, and those are intentional. But the toxins that we're mostly going to be exposed to, we're going to talk about here tonight, almost all of them, actually all the ones we're talking about tonight, are man-made, and they are chemicals. There are now close to different reports, and this is how crazy it is. Back in I think 2017, there's a reported about 80,000 different chemicals in the marketplace. Now there's some, so that's at 5 years ago. Now there's about 100,000. And
Wow.
there's almost, and no one really knows the number because that's how fast they come to the market. That being said, we're sitting back here probably innocent, and we say, well, the FDA, Food and Drug Association, is going to make sure that we are safe. They're not going to let a company put a chemical in our food that might not be safe for us, or that could be dangerous. I wish that was truth. And I think that they probably have very good intentions, yet the actions that they take right now are showing up more and more as that we can no longer use them as a guideline. Or maybe it's a very soft guideline. We have to take control of this by ourselves. I'm gonna throw some things out tonight. You don't have to remember these. These are just for me to help anchor people, or just kind of solidify the fact there's a lot of toxins out there, and we got to watch our own backs. There is a rule out there, or something that they kind of promote as healthy, something called GRAS, or GRAS, they say, GRAS. It's a qualification that a chemical in our food, or an additive, specifically food additives, which can be chemicals, which usually are. GRAS is something that stands for something very specifically called generally regarded as safe. If the FDA gives it a GRAS certification, it is often never even been tested.
Generally regarded as safe.
Generally regarded as safe. I know that sounds insane. You certainly double check me, Google it, figure it out. But often foods that are considered GRAS are considered generally regarded as safe. Now, that certification, that stamp of approval, was intentionally good because it said, well, these are all like all these other ones. These are vegetables like the other vegetables. We'll generally regard those as safe. But it's a loophole. It's a loophole for chemicals that maybe have a compound that's very similar. This one has 5, the other has 4. It's generally regarded as the same thing, so we'll call it safe. And that is exactly how the food chemical companies have used it. So now there's things in our foods, which are not new, quite frankly, that we don't know what they're doing to the human body, and that's the problem. So, and I'll get into some of the general ones, but I want to talk about a very specific category that are called forever chemicals. Yeah. Just the sound of it. Yes, exactly. Just the sound of it makes you go, yikes, like a forever chemical. That doesn't sound good. Yeah. Forever chemicals.
Forever chemicals. Yes. Please tell me what these are, Bart, so we can get them out of my house right now.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I'm going to go through a little bit of a list of like some of the things these are in. There's about 9,000 on record forever chemicals. Once they come into the human body, the good news is if you have a really, really effective detoxification system, you are a detox machine, you have the tools, you got the pathways open, you're practicing detox, you're not putting too much in, it's interfering with other things, you can get them out of your body. Unfortunately, we can't get them out of our environment. So they're going to live either in your body or in our environment forever.
Forever. Okay.
All right. So let's talk. So where are some of these things? Because you might think, well, I probably wouldn't eat them, right? I probably wouldn't have them. So cosmetics, huge.
Cosmetics.
Yes.
Okay. Makeup products. Mm-hmm.
Makeup products. Yeah. Think of all water resistant clothing. Bum deal, right? Yeah.
Bart, we live at the beach.
I know. That's what I said. Bum deal. Yeah. Think of everything that has fire retardants in it. That's everything, Whitney.
Even the sneaky ones, right? Like mattresses and stuff.
Mattresses. Yeah. Every mattress has fire retardants. Well, not the company I use, but nonetheless, there are, because, and then, so what's in, and I think I've talked about it here in the show before, those fire retardants are found in like 99.9% of all baby's milk. So they are leaching into our body as we sleep. So fire retard, stain repellents. That's another one. Electronic equipment.
We don't use any of that.
Yeah. Then the big one that really shed light on this and really brought it to all the non-stick pans, the Teflons. Now you don't see those on the market anymore because how dangerous we found out that they were. So again, it was approved, came on the market, found out, oh, what do these things cause? They cause things like, oh, they cause cancer and liver cancer and kidney cancer and all kinds of cancers and breast cancers. And this is not good stuff. So those pans that you have at home that are scraped and you can kind of see where you hit them with a knife and stuff like that, and it's like peeling up, throw them away.
Right into the trash. Get them
Right
out.
into the trash. Do nothing else with them. Don't give them around. Don't use them ever again in your life. They're always leaching these chemicals into your body, and especially when you add heat to it, you end up becoming like this chemical absorber. So just be very, very careful, meaning that it gets into the fat cells, it gets into the lipid layer faster, and now we have a serious, toxicity problem. And I think one of the reasons that this is an important topic for us to talk about, toxins could be at the root of, I'm not even say could, I would say that toxins, AKA nutrient deficiencies, because one causes the other. So these toxins will cause nutrient deficiencies because when you have toxins, they block cells from absorbing nutrients. Most of our cells have little receptors. They have little receptors. Think of baseball gloves, and baseball gloves catch things like vitamin D and vitamin C, and they exchange this way in and out of the cells. And when we have toxins in the body, those little baseball gloves get filled and they get blocked with these toxins. And therefore, even when we eat good, we still can't get the nutrients into our body. And that's why we see literally millions of very healthy lifestyle people that are very, very sick. And it's because of the amount of toxins that are built up. There's some more challenges here, though, when it comes to toxins, because it's not the reason these all get a pass. They study them on a micro level. They say, well, in this particular item, this T-shirt that has a little bit of flame retardant in it, it's on such a low level, it wouldn't impact you. This couldn't make you sick. And on that level, most likely they are correct, but that's not the level we're talking about. The challenge is the chronic exposures. Day after day, year after year, month after month, that's just decade after decade. That is what is really destroying or breaking down the cells, or inhibiting our cells from functioning on a high level, is this chronic exposure to these toxins.
Okay, so if we know that toxins are around us, and there's some of them that we can do some clearing up of, but there's also some that are just part of like being alive on this earth at this time on this planet, right?
Yes, there are. So there's a whole nother category. So these
Okay.
are, I'm going to talk about a group here that.
That's not all of them. We didn't cover all 9,000 yet.
No, let me walk through just off top of my head here. Let's just go through how much we can be exposed to in the normal American day in the life in America. Okay. Let's just say you happen to go to Chick-fil-A, and I'm not beating up Chick-fil-A or whatever. I'm just using them because they're on top of my mind right now. And in the wrapper that you might get the Chick-fil-A sandwich, that wrapper has multiple forever chemicals. Okay. So that's just starting. Add heat to it. Now we have a bigger issue. And they use those chemicals. Remember, you have this greasy, like, maybe it's not that greasy, but a chicken sandwich, whatever. And the grease doesn't absorb into the paper. And that's because of all those different chemicals. And so there's very strategic science behind even making of that wrapper. Then you go over to your plastic cup where you got your soda in. And in your soda, you have copious amounts of fluoride, because there's some water in there, believe it or not. And in soda, there are forever chemicals. Scary, right? Because who predominantly drinks soda? Kids do. Kiddos do, right? So we have that issue. In the plastic lid on that soda, forever chemicals.
Forever chemicals all the way.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess the straw.
Yeah. The straw, plastics, BPAs. And in a moment here, I do want to make sure we take a second here to cover thyroid function and toxins too. I know we have a thyroid podcast, but it'll be a perfect time to review what happens with thyroid. So you get the BPAs from the plastic, you get fluoride in the soda, you get forever chemicals in the soda, you get, I'm not even talking about the sugar and the effect on fatty liver and the effect on insulin, none of that. I'm just talking about the chemicals in the wrappings and in the casing, not even in the actual food itself. And then we got the wax that's not even really wax anymore. So it's some other just type of chemical that doesn't break down. So in just now, well, let's go to French fries. Now the chemicals that is cooked in, and the chemicals that are kind of created when they start to process those seed oils, and they kind of make up the names. It's really a canola oil that they use, but it's processed so many different ways. They can kind of call it different things, but ultimately it's no longer a food. So we have all of these different chemicals. Some of those are forever chemicals, some of them are not, in just one little meal. And I completely get when people say, oh, but I love me some Chick-fil-A. I get it. And if we keep behaving like that and we keep supporting one another and eating those types of foods, we're just going to get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker because they're everywhere. So and different companies have different companies have really taken a different stand. So like if you go to Whole Foods, the shopping store, a lot of their products are good, but they're not perfect, but they're good. They're better than most. I forget which one is better. I think McDonald's is a little better than Wendy's, or it's vice versa. And Nathan's might be one of the worst, which is like a hot dog joint. So there's different companies that have taken different stands for it. But still, even when you're eating healthy, and you've got your burrito, let's say you find a good burrito joint and it's in a wrap, that wrap right there, forever chemicals.
So like the tortilla wrap and the like food wrapper itself, right?
Yes, the actual food wrapper, correct. And then if you happen to, that was like you were going on a lunch date and you're all dolled up with your cosmetics, right? Now you got all these forever chemicals pouring through your skin, you're pushing them down your mouth, and you got some trouble going on. And then
this is not a happy story that you're telling us.
No, I know.
But it's real. It is real.
It is real. And here's the biggest thing. So one of the questions, or one of the conversations that happen often in just when we're talking about nutrition and weight gain and weight loss is, Doc, I used to be able to eat anything. And there's a real statement to that. So when we're younger and we're exposed to that same chemical, so it's not one chemical here. And here's I think the biggest challenge when it comes to avoiding toxins. It doesn't hurt to eat one typically in the moment, right? So we're always microdosing these chemicals. And as you take them a little bit by little bit by little bit, it doesn't hurt. So it doesn't feel like a baseball bat whacks you. Really what happens, you get more of what I call the dump truck effect. You are filling up your dump truck little bit by little bit by little bit, and then it dumps on you. And it is that effect. That is where we see down the road, all of the autoimmune conditions start to skyrocket. We see these hypersensitivities to scents and fragrances. Yeah, did I mention those? Fragrances, right? So the candles that you're burning, they're so wonderful. You are just putting in toxins into the air. Now you're breathing them in. So we got them in your air, you got them in your food, you got them in your water. We'll talk about water in just a moment, because all water in our country has fluoride in it, unless you're taking it out intentionally. And fluorides in a class we'll call halogens. And again, I'm going to talk about that in a minute when I talk about the thyroid gland. Yet food, air, water, all of it. And then sometimes let's just say you do perfect in those somehow. Then we have all of the clothing. We have all of the things we're putting on our bodies. We're putting all the cosmetics and the lotions and the potions. So we're swimming in a sea of toxins.
Swimming in a sea of toxins, Bart.
Yeah. And I know. So, but we're gonna
yes,
come up with a solve for this. I promise. Yes.
Love.
Because it's easier, yet it must be intentional. It's easier than people think. It's not difficult. It's just a little bit different, and it must be intentional. And the more that we decide, you know what, I want to be a healthy, strong human being. I'm not going to wait until this ship has sailed. And unfortunately, when it comes to toxins, that's often, I'm not saying the ship ever sails and like you can't come back to port yet. If it gets on too long, that's when dis-ease and disharmony, that's when diseases, that's when cancer. So what do we do? First thing, if someone's diagnosed with cancer, what's the very first thing people do? They clean up their diet, right? They look around and figure out where are all the chemicals that could have caused. It doesn't matter what type of cancer we're even talking about. We just immediately say we have to get rid of the chemicals. So if we're going to be real proactive, we're trying to be superhumans, let's have the consciousness to do such and start to kind of unwind them. And again, it's not the reason that a lot of the scientists and food manufacturers and maybe even the FDA get away with this. And the reason is because they say, look, in this dosing, the one I'm providing, in this Snickers bar, in this wrapper, it's not enough to kill you. Yet it's the chronic use of these things in the multiple components that we just spoke about. That chronic exposure is what really creates the problem.
Okay. So maybe we can do a little bit of acknowledgement of how much we are dosing ourselves with these chemicals.
Yeah. So I'll mention two different areas that are really common. So down here, I think everywhere you go, there's a lot of hair salons. Makes sense. Doesn't make sense for me, but nonetheless. But everywhere you go, there's hair, and there's some wonderful hair salons. So there's two areas that are probably some of the more toxic environments you can be. One is a hair salon. I think that's a no-brainer. And I know there's some people locally down here that are using better and better products to try to mitigate that. So mostly ladies, and I guess some guys as well, but if you're getting your hair colored, you're putting a lot of chemicals into your body. Remember, your skin's the largest organ of the body, and it will pull those toxins right in there. And my wife won't mind me saying, every now and then she might have a little bit of her grays removed with some coloring, right? Wonderful. I want her to look and feel beautiful. So we have a strategy. We dose her up prior on milk thistle. We kind of activate the phase 1 and phase 2 of liver detox. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. And then for the next several days, usually about 7 days straight, we dose her up high in milk thistle. Often I'll use a product, we might put this in our notes, called Livco, Livco, and that's a combination product of milk thistle and a real powerful herb that's very, very effective. It's also restorative for the liver. It's called Shishandra. And that product, Livco, has both of those in there. So super, super medicinal for the liver. And especially if you know you're exposed to chemicals. That's just a good example. If you're getting your hair colored, don't ignore it like it doesn't happen. And don't just be like, oh, so what? I'm going to do it. No, treat yourself. Be kind, be active in your recovery of it. And Livco would be a perfect one.
And you can use that outside of the hair salon. Yeah. Just if you know
absolutely.
You're going into an environment that is going to be chemically challenging.
So I'm laughing at what I'm about to tell you next, and it's kind of true. So I said that one first because, don't get mad if I say this, but most women most people, I guess, at hair salons are probably women, right? Getting their hair colored and getting all beautified, correct?
It might be true, Bart. You haven't been there in a little bit, though.
I haven't been there in a bit.
Some dudes there.
So my guess is there's a lot of women do that. And women, for the most part, are better action takers when it comes to their health. Now I'm going to flip this over. One of the most toxic environments that I see a lot of my guys on is a golf course.
The golf course, Bart.
Yeah.
It's outside.
Yeah. So the golf course, think about those beautiful acres upon acres of beautiful green grass, not a weed in sight. How did that happen? Yeah. And not only not a weed in sight, there are no birds landing on the golf course, rarely, because there's nothing to pick there that they want, because most of the stuff there will make them sick and die. Right. And why is that? Because there's such a heavy emphasis on fertilizers, which is super, super brutal on the human body, pesticides, herbicides. So just a little reminder, that word sides, SCIDS, that's the same category we use homicide, meaning the word side means to kill. So when we have herbicides and pesticides and you're spraying them all over these lawns and fertilizers, and we are walking around, kicking them up, and we're breathing that stuff in, there's a very specific and a very detailed and researched correlation between golfers who are on a golf course on a regular basis and the level of toxicity they have in their bodies. Not good. Not good. Now,
Wow.
those gentlemen and ladies that are out there golfing regularly would also benefit from saying, listen, I'm going to expose myself to this regularly. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to run from the toxins. I'm going to meet them right where they are, and I'm going to beat them. Because the truth is this, the human body is the single best detox machine on the face of this earth. There's nothing better. There's no filtering system that works as well as our body does, because our bodies have one intention: to stay alive.
All right, this is some good news.
Yes. So they're really, really, really good at it. And as a result of all of this stuff coming our way, it would be wise to have a very intentional plan of action to take care of it.
Fantastic. So still golf, but go in with awareness, be prepared.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Like warming up, right? A warm up and a cool down.
Yeah, and so
Absolutely.
no different than, we've talked a lot about the cleanse that we're doing, and which is coming up January 2nd. So those of you who want to cleanse, there's still time to do it. And in that cleanse, this is exactly what we're doing. And there's even more to it. That this is what we're doing. We're opening up phase 1 and phase 2 of detoxification. So we open up the pathways. So your body, your cells, your little baseball gloves get to empty out and get all that stuff out of the body. So I'm not saying so you can go fill it up again. That's preferably not the idea. Yet in the event it got filled up again, you have this plan, you have this intentional moment. At bare minimum, just once a year. And January is usually just like the perfect time to do, something like cleanse. And it takes we can't just do it in one day. I usually recommend at least 10 days of a pretty sustained, and having supporting agents, the right herbs and nutrients that help you, help your body detox and, empty out those little baseball gloves. If you've done something like that before, maybe extend it to 21 days. You're doubling down on your benefits here. So I want to back up for a second there and just talk briefly to some other things that are kind of taking place in our culture right now. So there's something called fatty liver disease. Okay. Fatty liver
Doesn't sound
disease.
great. Okay.
Nope, not awesome. Definitely not awesome. You would think by the name of it that this must be something that alcoholics deal with, or right, like people that drink a lot of alcohol. And yes, true, they do. Yet the most common cause of fatty liver disease is not from alcohol.
So where does it come from then?
Yeah. So the predominant reason that we're seeing so much fatty liver disease is because there are so many toxins coming into the body. So the way, once we bring in a toxin, gets into the bloodstream, the blood brings it into the liver. And when it gets to the liver goes, well, we're going to break you down, beat you up. We're going to try to decrease your toxicity and the damage that you can have on the rest of this body. And that's what it does in phase 1 of detox. It tries to essentially make it smaller, weaker, and make it water soluble. And then it wants to pass it off to phase 2. And in phase 2, we need to have all the elements. We talked about this last week, things like sulfur, and we have to have our cruciferous vegetables and all of those good things. But if that little formula there gets out of balance and we got too much stuff coming in and not the ability to get it out, then we get in trouble. It builds up, and literally we start to develop fatty liver disease. It builds up in the liver because the liver doesn't want to recirculate it. It's supposed to use, so the way the body detoxes, it either is going to break down the ammonia into something called urea, and then it passes it back into the bloodstream and then filters it down to the kidneys and you pee it out, or the liver will use bile and help break them down and also lubricate them and send them out into the intestines and eventually out the large intestine so you can poop it out. So there's 4 methods. So we'll dive into a little bit of, so how do we detox? Like, what is all these guys coming in? How do they get back out of our body? Like, what's the road
Bart,
back?
how do they get out?
Yeah. How do we block them? How do we block them and how do we get them out? So, and there's a little bit of both here. So 1, breathing. Huge how we do this. As silly as it sounds, nostril breathing blocks out 50% of the air pollutants relative to mouth breathing. It might even be higher than
50%,
that.
Bart. That's awesome.
What do you think about
Wow.
it? We have this whole pathway here. We have white blood cells lining that entire mucosal lining. So like when we get everything swells up, it's good. Bad guys got in there and the body's so innately, beautifully intelligent, it swells it up so no more can get in there. It's a fascinating system. Sometimes we don't pause enough to stop and recognize how literally incredible, intelligent the body is. Anyway, so we have breathing, we have peeing. So, and here's the thing about peeing, folks. You want to pee frequently throughout the day. I can't remember the last time I've talked about that. And that is a very important part. We want to frequently pee throughout the day. Unfortunately, I hear people intentionally trying to do the opposite. This is not good, folks. And they say this because they're in work or they're in their car and they're driving. I get it, understand every now and then you're on a long haul and you have this one moment you're trying to hold it, but you know what you're holding in? You're holding in toxins. Yeah. So you want to be staying plenty hydrated, starting early in the day, and make sure you have your good electrolytes. And you're peeing frequently through the course of the day. That's important. So we have breathing, peeing, pooping. Pooping's another good one. Now we don't want to poop frequently through the day, and it's a little bit different, but we want to poop consistently, ideally every day. So we want to have a regular bowel movement that we feel as if we've emptied our bowel system. Very, very, very important. The challenge, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
One of the challenges we have is that there's so many of us have gut health issues. And a poor gut will inhibit the amount of toxins that can get out. So that is kind of like an asterisk that we have to clean up. And the beauty is, how do you fix up a clean gut? I mean, a beat up gut. The first thing you do is start with by not putting any more junk into it. That's number one. You stop all the bad guys from coming in. So you remove bad guys. That is the number one way to start healing your gut.
Awesome. We have like, so when you mention these ways in which our body is amazing to get these toxins out, because the fact is like we will be exposed to them because they are everywhere. There's a little shorthand we have at the office. We say the bus stop, don't miss your bus stop. So if you have to pee, you go pee because the bus is there and you're at the bus stop. You don't want to wait for the bus to go all the way back around until you have to get back to that bus stop if you've ever like actually had to wait on a bus. It's very effective.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, and kind of embracing it, and you know, and you guys know, like sometimes we get busy, we get caught up. Yet the body is beautiful, and it's always talking to us. So it gives us a sensation and says, "Hello, Miss Whitney, or whoever. I think it'd be good if you went to the bathroom now and excreted."
Or
And
even took like a deep breath. Like just don't
breath.
wait when you know that moment is coming. Like you feel it. Your body will tell you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the liver for just a
Okay.
moment here. And without diving too deep into this, because I think this next topic, I at least want to mention something, it's called methylation. So methylation is a term that's used for biological processes within the body. It's a mouthful. Methylation basically means when your body takes in certain nutrients and it essentially converts them to usable sources. I really simplified that, and someone who's an expert in methylation is going to yell at me for that. That's what methylation is. It takes a substance in, converts it to make it into a usable source for us. That's done in multiple different places in the body. Predominantly, it is done in the liver. When we take all these toxins in, we can't methylate. That's a problem. And I want to string together the issues that this creates. So if you can't methylate, one of the first things that happen is you don't methylate, and most common is you don't methylate your B vitamins. Our B vitamins are a critical part of us making something called ATP. ATP is what we use for our mitochondria and our cells use for energy. So we want as much ATP as possible. If your body does not methylate properly and you can't convert these things. So listen, not only B vitamins, but if we have an issue with methylation, you're not going to make enough glutathione, you're not going to make enough melatonin, enough serotonin, enough nitric oxide, epinephrine, norepinephrine, all your neurotransmitters. It's a problem. In the root of all of these methylation issues, and in functional medicine, we talk a lot about methylation. The root of all this is that there's so many toxins in the body that the body can't process these foods, these different nutrients. You can't methylate. So in the event you can't methylate your B vitamins, then you don't make enough ATP. If you don't have energy, you have to go get energy from the outside, from an outside source, which means carbs and sugar.
Carbs and sugar.
Yes. So, and I have to go back because I didn't finish the four. There's 4 ways that our body gets rid of things. I only gave you 3. But real quickly here, this leads to when we can't meth, we get all these toxins in our liver, circulating our blood, the blood sends it to the liver goes down, it's overwhelming me, starts storing it in the liver because it doesn't want to harm the other parts of your body. That starts to establish a fatty liver situation. You're down regulating the methylation. You're running out of neurotransmitters. You don't feel good. You're no longer happy. You can't sleep good at night. So you start eating more and you eat carbohydrates because they give you a little dopamine push. And it starts this vicious cycle of all we do. I get addicted to carbs and sugar. And that is the beginning part of diabetes. So when we look in our country, diabetes is on the massive rise. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment as well. So all of this, the diabetes, the fatty liver disease, all this stuff, it certainly can be linked all the way back to that there's so many of these toxins. So when people are making bad food decisions, if your body cannot methylate your food, you eat some good grass-fed organic beef, and then you don't feel satiated because you can't convert it into energy. So then your body goes, I still need energy. I need the brain to work. And in order to do that, you have taken sugar and carbohydrates. Vicious cycle. And there's a lot of people listening to this right now that just rang a bell. Go, whoa, wait a minute, that's me. I'm eating good. I have no energy and I'm gaining weight. Most likely you have a toxin issue. You got to get your body to detox. You got to get things out. So breathing, peeing, pooping, sweating.
Sweating.
Yes. Get it out of the body.
There's so many ways to like get sweaty, right? I mean, saunas are like everywhere these days, hot showers.
Yes. So all of the things that we've heard really for a lifetime about health and fitness and health and wellness, why exercise is so good for us. It's true. Yeah. So when we flex our muscles, we are squeezing the lymph tissue within them, throughout the course of the body. You increase circulation, you're pushing things. Beautiful. And as we do that, we get the body warmed up, we start to sweat, which means toxins will come out of our skin, which is awesome.
Yes. And we get stronger and harder to kill.
Yes. That was my next point. Yes. So if we do these things and we are exercising, we get stronger. And the fun thing is this, and this is how I think it works for most of us, most of the time. You start exercising, you start to make better food decisions. Because you're like, man, I just killed it in the gym for 40, 30 minutes, something, whatever, an hour. I don't want to go ruin that whole thing. Sometimes it gets weird where we think we're going to reward ourselves because we worked out hard. Not a good plan, not a long-term plan. Anyway, so sweating is awesome. And it's important to sweat frequently. Why frequently? Because we're frequently taking in toxins.
Yes.
So what I didn't.
Are we talking like a daily sweat?
It certainly wouldn't be a bad thing.
Would not be a bad thing.
No. And to the point earlier, do I think you need to go hammer your body, for 40 minutes? No, but there's a lot of different ways you can sweat, right? You could get on a spin bike, you can do some weights, you can go for a jog, you can go for a walk in the sun, you can get in a hot sauna. December here in my household, I made some commitments to my detox. I know we do the cleanse in January. So yeah, every day I'm either going to do a hot or cold or both every day. Beautiful. Yes.
How's it going so far?
I got it. So far, so good. And it's such a reminder. I literally have a sauna sitting down the way here just a little bit. And I haven't used the thing in like 5 months, 6 months. My wife uses a little more than I do. And I was in just last night. I was like, wow, this is awesome. And it's just and so cleansing, letting our bodies get clear and clean. I would say that it's, in the other part of the toxin, we have air, right? We have food, we have water, but we have thoughts as well.
And that's not a little one, Bart,
no,
is it?
It's not a little. It's really not. It's really not. And especially when it comes to our liver, especially in Chinese medicine, the liver is the holder, and it's the beholder of our emotions and our thoughts. And if we have fear, if we have worry, and we have concern and anger, we'll see that show up in liver dysfunction or the flow of qi, which is our life force. And then we see more of those emotions going to kind of pour out of us, just like toxins. We can create that dis-ease and that disharmony in the body. And even though I'm not going to talk too much about the thoughts tonight, we cannot discount that. So it is so important that we use gratitude when we, like the idea of saying grace before a meal, or, being thankful for your meal. Those subtleties of putting your body in that receiving phase, in that loving state, is probably a bigger player than most people think. If we have all that fear, worry, and concern, I understand there's a lot of things that go on in life, but if we stay in that mode, very difficult for our bodies to let go, which is part of detox. The beauty of like something like a sauna, I didn't know everyone doesn't have access to it, but if you did, the beauty, it's warm. It's a nice environment. I use infrared sauna. I don't use the super high powered one. Both of them would be good. The infrared sauna works in the night, it penetrates the body, so it's really gentle, quite frankly. And next thing you know, you're just pouring sweat and you get out, which is nice.
And ultimately it feels so good, right? Like, even if you resist it all the way into stepping into the sauna, there's a moment where it tips over and the body's like, oh, thank you. Thanks for the sweat.
Really, really does. It feels so
No
good.
kidding.
All right, so let's cruise along here. I want to chat a little bit about the thyroid just real quickly here.
Yeah.
So because thyroid, hypothyroidism specifically, is super, super, super affected by chemicals. In fact, I would say that every time there's a hypothyroidism case, there is a chemical or a toxin component at the root of it. So real quickly, I mentioned something called fluoride earlier, I think, when I talked about water. So fluoride is one of these chemicals that is basically destructive to the human body. So the fluoride is a category of what we call halogens. Okay. On a periodic chart way back in chemistry class, there were all these different halogens. There's 5 of them. And they all compete in your body for these little receptor sites to get in this baseball glove, which are going to then help or hurt your thyroid. There's one good halogen and there's 4 bad guys. Bad guys: chlorine, like my swimming pool. Okay. Even though we use a saltwater base, apparently it converts to like a chlorine after time or something. Chlorine, bromide, which we're going to find in our flame retardants, which we're going to find in all those repellents and whatnot. Fluoride, chloride, or chlorine, bromide. There's one called astatine, and then there's iodine. Those are the 5. Iodine is a required nutrient for your thyroid. It is very difficult to get in our diet, especially in the American diet, because we don't eat a lot of seaweed. And I know people tell you there's a little bit here and a little bit there. It's not that much. And it's competing against those. It's competing against fluoride, which is in all water. And if we have a constant state of fluoride and they fill up the baseball gloves, your iodine doesn't get in there. This is a problem. Now you cannot convert your T4s into T3s. You have hypothyroidism, and it has nothing to do with a lack of hormones. Even when you take your hormones, your tests will show normal, but it's still not in the baseball glove. And this is where we have to stop looking at things testing wise and just it's low, so I got to get it high. If you have hypothyroidism, you got to get clean. Got to go through a detox pathway. You got to open up those pathways and get all this junk, get those little baseball gloves cleaned out so you can get some iodine in your body. Get with your practitioner and find out how much iodine would be proper for you, especially if you have something like Hashimoto. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good to take. Yet those halogens can be very, very destructive. So chloride, right? Think of chloride bleach. When touches the skin, it breaks down cells. Yes, it damages any cell that it touches, Problem, right? Especially if you got a swimming pool like myself, and I swim a lot. So if you are swimming in pools, get out and shower off immediately. So important to do that. Because remember, our bodies are really good. If they notice the toxins coming in and our body's healthy, there'll be a resistance. We're going to push out against it. But we got to give our body a fair shake. So you're going to be able to mitigate some of those toxins from getting into your body. We got to get out and shower all that stuff and clean it off. So yesterday I happened to dive in. It was a little cold. Again, that was my cold. So I dove into our pool, filled myself with toxins, chlorine.
Yeah.
Got out, took a shower. Then I got in a sauna, pushed all the junk back out, and then cleaned up again. So
the strategy, Bart, that's what that is.
Yes.
Are there other things that someone might avoid if they had thyroid issues in mind, like specific stuff to not lean in towards?
So those big ones. So, those halogens are probably, there are others. So the halogens, of course, the bromides, BPAs, and those are, think plastics. 100%. And that's right into this category of all the toxins. So in the event that you're still drinking out of plastic bottles, just stop it. And do not leave your plastic bottle in the car and then go drink it the next day. And as much as I would like to tell you Nalgene, is that what they say? Nalgene?
Nalgene, yeah.
There's still
Yeah.
leaching BPAs. So it was a good effort. It was good effort, but it's been proven not so good. Mercury, that's a tough one because they're in fillings. They're super detrimental to the thyroid function, or the thyroid, fillings that we get in our teeth. The mercury, super not good. And then there's something called perchlorate, which is found in fertilizers. So again, that goes back to the golfers, right? So a lot of fertilizers anywhere, and it could be in our lawns. Could be, we don't use any here at our house. Yeah, if you go out every day and the chem lawn people come, right? There's a company, I think that's what their name is, Chem Lawn. I'm not busting any company, but they're literally saying, I'm putting chemicals on your lawn. And they come and they spray all these chemicals on you. You go out there and you're walking barefoot, you're playing out there with your animals, and you're dusting all that stuff up and you're inhaling it. You're exposed to a lot of these things that and all of those that I just mentioned, the BPAs, the mercury, the fluoride, there's perchlorates, all of them have backed up research showing that these will all downregulate the thyroid gland, so creating hypothyroidism.
So I suppose that we could use like maybe glass bottles and jars, kind of like we do at Prima, right?
Yeah. So if anyone's ever been to our little cafe next to our clinic there, that's one of the reasons we do that. Which is fascinating. And thanks for bringing that up. Glass is one of the ways we want to store things. Do not reheat things in your oven, your microwaves, just throw your microwave away. We don't want to reheat things in anything that's going to leach. So really, you got to have ceramic or plastic. I'm sorry, or glass. Over in our cafe, really, my wife is probably the spearhead on all this, but she makes sure that if we're going to have it in there, we're not going to cut corners and have a great product that could have chemicals leached into it. And that is no easy task, folks. I'm telling you right now yet. So I want to give my crew, the team, you, me, all of us the super credit. And it's not a financially easy thing to do, quite frankly. In fact, most people would say you're wasting your money having that much glass, because we do all of our juices, all of our fresh juices. But imagine this for a moment. You just an hour ago, you had a cold pressed celery juice made, literally from organic celery juice. It's pressed, it's put into a cooler, which is cold. There's no oxidation taking place, and it's in glass. It's beautiful. There's nothing to leach in it. All you are drinking is celery juice. The moment I put that into a plastic bottle, you now have celery juice and plastic bottle contaminants, period. So knowing that, and that's where the beauty of now having an organic cafe and being in practice for the last 25 years, that I get what it takes to do it. And it's very much doable. Again, not difficult, just different. And it has to be intentional. And so there's, through our entire cafe, that's kind of the mode of operation. And I get when people say it's difficult at home, but if we can do it and serve thousands, you can do it and serve 3 or 4 at home. I know. Yeah. And the same thing. So all your cooking utensils, everything needs to be analyzed. If this is under heat, is this going to leach out chemicals? And the answer is, for the most part, all of that stuff, the Teflons, the plastic stuff, all of it's got to go.
It's really great news that you can do that at home and it can be delicious.
Yes. Yes, no doubt.
Well, Bart, we've covered a lot of ground tonight. We find ourselves here at the end of the show, and I would love to ask you our closing question here. What is one step that our listeners can take towards becoming superhuman?
Get super intentional about being a detox machine. And that's one of the things. This time of year, we prepare for our cleanse. It'll be a huge community cleanse. And again, folks, if you'd like to join us, we kick it off January 2nd. It is, again, if a cleanse could be easy and or fun, this is it. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of community involved. They're very specific.
It's literally fun.
Literally fun. I know.
Yeah.
And I love this time of year because we, you and I especially, we go through a lot of preparation. We're always tweaking things. We're always looking to make things a little better. We're always looking at our food choices and our menus and our recipes, and always double checking ourselves. And sometimes we have to make some corrections. Yet it's a reminder this time of year for me that this thing we call life, trying to be a superhuman and trying to have some longevity and enjoying the road, man, it comes down to toxins. Like if you dial that in, it may be the reason you're addicted to sugar. It may be the reason you have all this exercise, but can't lose any weight because you can't get things out of your body. So if you want to join us, easy breezy, there's two options, a 10-day and a 21-day. Either one would be a great way to start. And the nice thing too is if you do a 10-day and you're just cruising right along, all you need to do is call the office. You'll need some additional supplies, some different supplements and herbs to get through the next 10 days. So you can literally just extend it easy breezy. So that's a simple phone call. So make sure Whitney, are we still running the early bird special?
We are still running the early bird special.
Okay. So the early bird special is now the mid bird special.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to do that, if you would put a link in there for the folks as well. Yeah. So be intentional, be as intentional as you can to become a detox machine, have some fun. If you're even contemplating doing it, especially if you've never cleansed before, do not be intimidated by it. I understand that it can be at times. I completely get that. I think I'm intimidated every year that I go into doing it. Yet know that if you're just thinking about it, just go for it. That's the other thing. There is no way to fail at a class, because you always get to win by learning something. Always. So there's no wrong or right way to doing it. If you feel like you want something intentional, and not only intentional, but proven. We've got such a track record and so much history and so many, testimonials of whether it be weight loss or blood pressures being low, hot flashes going away, cholesterol panels changing, just whatever it may be. The testimonials are nonstop. And the reason being, it's not because we're trying to cure or fix anything, really, because we're helping make better, stronger human beings.
True that. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight on the Health Made Simple show.
And of course, appreciate you guys showing up once again. Keep doing your thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading love. If you get an opportunity, wherever you are, Spotify or wherever you're listening to this podcast tonight, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating. That would be awesome. And of course, let's continue to do your thing and make sure you're taking deliberate action for your mind, your body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.